And we are back today with another episode of The Franchise. Today is Friday, March 10th. In today's episode, we got the American League East preview. We are almost done going through every single division in Major League Baseball, predicting how each team in the division will fare. Today, we are doing the AL East. We're also going to go over the NBA MVP race. There's been a lot of talk in recent days about the MVP award. Some very controversial topics. Won't be getting into those, but we will talk about the NBA MVP award and then some light things in the NFL as NFL free agency officially starts on Monday. So there's going to be a lot of moves that keep happening throughout the weekend as we gear up for free agency. Before we get into the episode, as always, the franchise is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Instagram, TikTok, all of that is in the description of the episodes. First, we're going to start with the AL East. We'll just get that out of the way real quick. So, we've done the AL West, NL West, Centrals, both AL and NL. And we're finishing it with basically the two top dog divisions in Major League Baseball, the AL and the NL East. Arguably, these two divisions are the deepest, the strongest, and just overall the best in baseball. So today, focusing on the AL East. Right off the bat, before we even get into where the teams will finish, honestly, you are looking at three playoff teams in this division. Is there a possibility for a fourth? I mean, maybe. There's going to be, I'd say all five and definitely four of these teams are going to be very competitive this season. I think you have a chance for four teams to finish above 500, and these teams are going to beat up each other, right? There's going to be a lot of tough series between all five of these teams in this division, and just because I think this one team's about to finish in last place, I still think all of these teams will fare well against each other this season. But let's get it started. Finishing in first place for me, 2023 AL East, is the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, first of all, I didn't even really plan out wearing the Blue Jays hat specifically for this episode. It just kind of played out that way, but finishing in first place this year for me is going to be the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, last season they went 92-70, and they finished in second place, made the wild card, and they got swept by the Seattle Mariners in that wild card round. But this year, coming in 2023, I think this team's I think they got better in the offseason. And I think you're looking at a team that has a legit chance to go very, very far into the postseason, potentially make a World Series run. Starting with the lineup, George Springer leading it off. He's going to be moving from center field to right field, entering his age 33. He will be turning 34 at some point this season, and he's still a very, very productive player offensively. 29 homers, can steal 10 bases, hit 260 to possibly even 300 at times, and he's just going to be a very great leadoff hitter. I mean, that's what he's been doing his entire career. One of the best leadoff hitters, especially at the power, in terms of power in Major League Baseball. Right behind him, you're looking at shortstop Bo Bichette, one of the best young shortstops in the game, especially offensively. This guy can hit 300 with 20-plus homers, steal 20 bases. He's an excellent offensive player at shortstop. The only thing for Bo Bichette, and I mentioned this when we were doing the top 10 shortstops, is that he's one of the worst defensive players at that position in the game. He's horrible defensively, lots of errors, low defensive runs saved, low outs above average. He's just not a great defender, but his offense really trumps what he can do on the defensive side of the ball, and that makes him a very valuable player and one of the best young players in the game. First base, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I mean, he was second in MVP in 2021 to Shohei Ohtani. He's arguably a top three first baseman in the game of baseball. Insane power threat. I mean, he can hit 40 home runs a season, and with that, he can hit near 300 batting average. So he's not just a power-only kind of player. He's able to put the ball in play, drive in runs, and then also hit absolute nukes. Alejandro Kirk's behind the plate. This is one of the best young catchers in the game, both offensively and defensively. One of the best, most underrated offseason moves from any team this offseason was Dalton Varsho. They got him from the Arizona Diamondbacks. They traded away their top prospect, Gabriel Moreno. But Varsho is one of the best defensive outfielders in the sport, and then he's also an insanely productive left-handed bat. He can hit 29 homers, hit 250, and play some stellar defense. They have him playing left field. There's also the chance, he does play some center field this season. One of the best pickups this offseason. Matt Chapman's going to play third base, Gold Glove defense, can hit 30 homers, not super productive, outside of his power offensively, but still a great player. They added Brandon Belt. He's going to be their DH, probably getting some platoon opportunities, also at first base as well. Very, very great player. He's entering his 35-year-old season. Whit Merrifield's over there. They got him last season at the deadline. Kevin Kiermaier, they just signed him this offseason. Great pickup. He'll be playing center field, Gold Glove winner. And then I like this bench. Danny Jansen. I think he's a top 10 catcher. He's coming off the bench. Santiago Espinal. This guy's a pretty solid player. Can play a few different positions in the infield. Kevin Biggio. This guy was once a top prospect for them. Hasn't really found his groove at the major league level yet, but he could still be a guy that could play some infield, play some outfield. Maybe you could find a way to use him as a trade piece at some point this season. And then this rotation in this bullpen, I really like this rotation now. It's a pretty right-handed dominant pitching staff. I mean, you're really only looking at them having two lefties projected on their entire big league roster between their starters and relievers. But they're still a very dominant group. Alek Manoah headlines their starting rotation. He finished top 3 in AL Cy Young voting last season. Kevin Gausman, they brought him over last year from San Francisco. He was great for them. I expect the exact same. Chris Bassett, they signed from the Mets on a 3-year deal. He should be, just as good as he's been for his entire career, basically, now with the Blue Jays. And then for me, this guy on their team, Jose Barrios. He is a huge X factor for them. If he is what he once was from 2021 to his first few years with the Minnesota Twins, the Blue Jays are going to find themselves having one of the most scary rotations in baseball, the most scary and most deep 1 through 4 rotations in the game, because Jose Barrios last season, not great. Absolutely horrible season. He got hit a lot. His fastball was hit for, miles. But you look at what he's done previously with the Twins, his first year with the Blue Jays, this guy has a lot of potential. I mean, the Blue Jays traded one of the best young prospects in baseball, Austin Martin, to get this guy. So if Barrios can play like he is projected to play, like he's supposed to play, and like he has played in the past, he deepens this rotation to being a 4-man deep rotation. Yusei Kikuchi's in there. He's an okay pitcher, I think. Honestly, he just gets absolute nukes hit off of him every single highlight I ever see from any game that he pitches. The bullpen's got Jordan Romano, Anthony Bass, Trevor Richards, Mitch White, Adam Simber, Anthony Bass. This is a very nice bullpen as well. So for me, Toronto, I think they're going to finish first place. I have them winning between 95 and 100 games this season. I love the way they improved. I think this team is poised to go on a very, very deep postseason run. All right, finishing in second place for me, I have the New York Yankees. They won the division last year, winning 99 games, made it to the ALCS, and then got swept by the eventual world champion Astros. This team, offensively, they didn't improve. All right, they didn't make moves to improve their team. When you look at their lineup this year compared to their lineup last year, it's the same. Now, obviously, they re-signed Aaron Judge, who hit 62 home runs for them, won the MVP, signed him to a 9-year contract, $300+ million, but the rest of this lineup is exactly the same. And last season, they had really good stretches and they had really down stretches, and then when it came to the postseason, the Yankees were not able to hit. But I still think this team's going to be great. I mean, they won 99 games last year, and they're the exact same roster, so I think they will get a little bit worse, and that's just based off of their offense. Gleyber Torres at second base, he improved last season compared to years past. Aaron Judge, right field, top 5 player in the game. Anthony Rizzo over there at first base has been great since he's joined the Yankees. Stanton at the DH spot, if he's on the field, he's always a threat to hit 30+ home runs. Josh Donaldson had a very down season last year for the Yankees. I mean, he's still projected to be their third baseman, but I think there's a chance, if he plays bad, that he's just automatically booted out of that position. Harrison Bader manning center field, one of the best defensive players, especially in that center field position in all of baseball. Aaron Hicks in left field. I'm surprised this guy still has a job, especially for the Yankees. Absolutely horrible offensive player, provides no offensive production for the Yankees. Jose Trevino behind the plate, one of the best defensive catchers in the game. Oswald Peraza is going to be manning short as of now. You're still looking at Anthony Volpe. Potentially, he's their number one prospect. You're still looking at him possibly making the big league roster. Now, that's something that's not being talked about a lot. This spring training, he's been playing great. He's been playing pretty solid, and I think there's a real chance that the Yankees should be looking at him to make their big league roster and start at shortstop for them this season. Now, they still have Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, they still have Oswaldo Cabrera, they still have Oswald Peraza, and they still have DJ LeMahieu. All of those guys are capable of playing that shortstop position, but for me, Volpe, I think he's the number 5 prospect in Major League Baseball. You're looking at him making an impact on this team at some point this season. I think that's a guarantee. Peraza is their number 2 prospect. Whether you want to play Volpe or Peraza at short or third, I think that's got to happen at some point this season for the Yankees, especially if Josh Donaldson plays poorly. This rotation, they did make a big move in the pitching rotation, and that was getting Carlos Rodon. Now he's going to be out for a few weeks with an injury, but when he does come back, you're looking at one of the best pitching rotations in Major League Baseball. Garrett Cole leading it off, one of the best pitchers in the game. Carlos Rodon at that 2, arguably one of the best left-handed pitchers in the game. Luis Severino, Domingo Germán, Nestor Cortez, who had a great season last year. Clark Schmidt potentially can get some starts in there. And then this bullpen has some guys there as well. Clay Holmes was an all-star last season, had a great first half, and then really tanked when it came to post-all-star break performance. Jonathan Loaizaga has some nasty stuff. I mean, some players are saying he has some of the best and most hardest to hit stuff in the game. Wandy Peralta, Michael King. So they have some guys out there in that rotation, in that bullpen. Rodon, strained forearm, he's going to be out for a while, and they will be missing Frankie Montas for what seems to be the entire season. He was supposed to be a big piece for that rotation and really lengthen that starting rotation for the Yankees. So I think they'll be good. I think they'll make the playoffs. I think they'll win 95 to 100 games as well. So I think it'll be between them and the Blue Jays at the top to really win this division. But ultimately, I'll give it to the Blue Jays. I like the offseason moves they made more than what the Yankees did. Third place for me, I got the Tampa Bay Rays. They went 86-76 last year. I think this team improves to possibly winning 90 to 95 games. I think the AL East is going to be a very, very close division. And when you go through this Tampa Bay roster, you're going to be like, they don't have as many guys as these top 2 teams in this division. But that's just how the Rays have been for years now, and they always have found a way to make the postseason. They have guys that you don't think will be good that end up being absolute studs year in and year out. Yandy Diaz is going to be their first baseman. He's a stud. Wander Franco at short is an absolute beast. He's only 22 years old and is one of the best young players in the game. Randy Rosarena playing the outfield. Brandon Lau at second base. This guy is an absolute beast at the plate. Can hit 30 homers, hit 250. Harold Ramirez at the DH. Manuel Margot and right. Isaac Paredes at third. Christian Bethancourt at behind the plate. Jose Siri in center field. That guy's a beast. He can steal 20 bases, hit 20 home runs. He's going to hit low average, play some good defense out there in center field. Francisco Mejia is a projected backup catcher. Taylor Walls and Luke Raley as well. This rotation in this bullpen should be very good for Tampa as well. Shane McClanahan, all-star starter, finished in that Cy Young voting last season. I think he had some of the highest strikeout rate in Major League Baseball last season. Drew Rasmussen, Zach Eflin, they signed over from Philadelphia. Jeffrey Springs, Yoni Chirinos. They are going to be missing Tyler Glasnow, and they will be missing Shane Baz. Shane Baz was a big one. I mean, this guy has been injured, healthy throughout his entire career so far. He was once a highly touted prospect. And then Tyler Glasnow, they got him back at the end of last season, played in that postseason game against the Guardians, and then now he's going to be out for a few weeks with an oblique. But when these guys come back, especially Glasnow, you're looking at a McClanahan, Glasnow, Rasmussen, Eflin rotation. That's a very nice 1 through 4. Fairbanks in that bullpen with Garrett Cleavinger. this Tampa team, I mean, there's a lot of guys that you may not have ever heard of before, but they're going to be good. They're going to be competitive. I have them, honestly, they're a team that could, I think, has a chance to make the postseason, depending on how, the rest of Major League Baseball pans out. But I think those three teams are going to be buying and fighting the whole season for that division title. Coming in fourth place, I'm going to pick the Orioles. They finished fourth place last season. They went 83-79. I think, honestly, this team can finish between 80 and 90 wins. That's a big gap, I know, but this team's either going to be really good and win 90 games, or they're going to be about the same and win 85, maybe a little more, or they're going to be a little bit less productive as they were last season and in the low 80s. This lineup is great. I love this lineup. They have a lot of young players, just a really balanced lineup. Cedric Mullins, an absolute stud in the outfield. He can steal 30 bags, hit at in 2021, he was an all-star. I think he had a 30-30 season. Last year, had a 16-homer season. This year, I think he can hit 20 at the top of that lineup and steal 30 bags. Adley Rutschman behind the plate is arguably the second best catcher in baseball, and by the end of the season, he will be the best catcher in baseball. He's an absolute stud. Gunnar Henderson, the number one prospect in Major League Baseball, is going to be their third baseman. He should be absolutely amazing for them next season. He's my pick to win Rookie of the Year in the American League. Anthony Santander out there in right field is a 30-homer kind of guy. Ryan Mountcastle at first base. Kyle Stowers at the DH spot. Austin Hayes in left. Adam Frazier is a nice pickup. He's going to be playing second base. Jorge Mateo at the shortstop position is probably the weakest link in that lineup, is that shortstop spot. Now, the thing for me with this Orioles team, and the reason why I don't see them making the playoffs this season, and why I thought about putting the Red Sox ahead of them, was this rotation and this bullpen. This rotation, their number one is projected to be Kyle Gibson, and that's really not a strong number one. You're looking at Cole Irvin being a 2, Kyle Bradish at the 3, Dean Kramer at the 4, and then one of the top pitching prospects in baseball, Grayson Rodriguez, potentially making this big league roster finally, projected to be the 5. If this Orioles team really wants to be serious and really wants to make the playoffs this season, I think it's banking on the success of Grayson Rodriguez on the mound, because this team, pitching-wise, especially that rotation, you're not looking at a lot of guys that can go out there and completely dominate a game. And I think the only guy that really can do that is Grayson Rodriguez. This bullpen, Felix Bautista is a really great pitcher, and then the rest of the guys are high 3, low 4 ERA kind of guys. But the Orioles have arguably the best farm system in baseball. Gunnar Henderson, obviously going to be making their roster this year. Jackson Holliday, number one pick in the 2022 MLB draft. He's a shortstop. He won't be coming up for at least probably 3 more years. He's only 19 years old. Grayson Rodriguez, like I said, Kobe Mayo, DL Hall, Heston Kershad, Colton Cowser. So they got a lot of guys on this team, especially in the farm system. They will be good, I think, this year. They'll be great next season. I think their window is slowly opening up. They just need to figure out that rotation. And with not that many guys in the farm system, on the pitching side of the ball, I think if you're the Blue Jays, I keep saying the Blue Jays, if you're the Orioles, you got to go out there in free agency and in the trade market and acquire some starting pitching and some bullpen help. I still think they'll be good. Like I said, 80 to 90 wins. So a 10-win gap for this team. I mean, they could either be really good or disappoint. 80 wins is not really a disappointment. But they're going to be somewhere in that mix for me this season. And then in last place, I have the Red Sox. They won 78 games last season. I think they can win about the same at the most. This team lost a lot. I mean, they lost Xander Bogaerts. They let him walk for absolutely nothing. Nathan Eovaldi's gone. JD Martinez is gone. Rich Hill, Michael Wacha. They've lost a lot of guys, right? And so this team's taken a hit offensively. Tristan Cassis, rookie, playing first base. Hopefully he's an answer. Hopefully he's pretty good. Rafael Devers, arguably one of the best third basemen offensively in the game. He's there. He signed an extension this offseason, so he'll be there for the rest of his career. He's really the number one guy in this lineup that you can look at and say, we don't want to face this guy. But Justin Turner came in there from the Dodgers. He'll be playing DH, first base, maybe some third base. Masataka Yoshida, they just signed over this offseason. We'll see how he fares, in the MLB coming over from Japan. Alex Verdugo playing the right field position. He's been solid since he got traded for Mookie Betts. Kike Hernandez at either short, second, third, freaking any of the outfield positions. He will be there. Adam Duvall, Reese McGuire, Christian Arroyo, Bobby Dahlbeck on the bench, Jorge Alfaro, Rob Refsnyder. So they have some nice players, some nice pieces offensively. But I just don't think when you look at the other 4 teams in this division, they have much stronger offenses than this Red Sox team. And then especially in the rotation in the bullpen. Now, the Red Sox did not go out there and address the starting rotation at all this offseason. What they did was they went out there and they spent their money on bullpen help. And they had one of the worst bullpens in the league last season. So they brought in Kenley Jansen. And then they have Chris Martin. They let go of some other guys. They let go of Matt Barnes, of Josh Taylor. He went to Kansas City. They're going to be missing James Paxton. He might be able to come back. Garrett Whitlock, a nice piece to either start or come in that bullpen for them. So they have, I think their bullpen definitely improved, but when you're looking at this starting rotation, how many of these guys are you going to be counting on to, 1, give you 170 innings a season, and then 2, actually go like 6-7 innings deep every single start? Chris Sale, entering his 34-year-old season, he has been injured for the past 2 seasons. Can you count on him to give you 25 starts, 170 innings? Probably not. Corey Kluber's entering his age 37 season. He has not been the same pitcher since he won his last Cy Young. Can you count on him to do, the same, 170 innings? Nick Pivetta, you can really count on him. I mean, he's not the most injury-prone pitcher in the world, but he's not the best pitcher on the planet. Tanner Houck has basically been a reliever his entire career. Cutter Crawford. They have a nice pitching prospect. Where is he? And Brian Bayo, that guy. He came up last season. He was stellar in the minor leagues. Came up during the big leagues. He kind of struggled at times. I think he's a big piece for this rotation. If he can come up whenever they decide to call him up this season, if they bring him up and he's elite like he's been in the minor leagues, he really helps this team out, and maybe they could pass up the Orioles and finish in 4th place. I don't see the Red Sox making the postseason. I just think this team, for the Red Sox, I mean, they're a big market team. They should be out there spending money. For some reason, they're operating like the Oakland A's. They're just acting like they don't have money to spend. They're going in a weird direction, but they have some nice prospects. Marcelo Meyer, shortstop prospect, top 10 in baseball. Tristan Cassis, Mike Romero. They got some prospects in their system that you're looking at in a few seasons to come up, but no one really to help them this year outside of Brian Bayo in that rotation. So that's how I see the AL East finishing. You're looking at the Blue Jays, 95 to 100 wins, 1st place. Yankees, 95 to 100 wins, 2nd place. Tampa Bay, 90 to 95, 3rd place. Baltimore Orioles, 85 or between 80 and 90 wins. I have them finishing in 4th place, and the Red Sox, I think anything below 79 wins and in last place. All right, finally, the NBA MVP race has been basically a hot topic the entire season. I mean, at one point before the new year, you were looking at Jason Tatum, Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Giannis, Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, Ja Morant. You were looking at a hell of a lot of guys in that conversation to win the MVP award. And right now, I think we can say it's down to 3 players: Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and then Giannis Antetokounmpo. And there's been some talk, especially in this past week, especially on ESPN, and especially from a man named Kendrick Perkins about the MVP. I'm not going to get into that. I really don't care. Although what Kendrick Perkins said was first of all, was wrong. He doesn't have his stats right or his facts right. And second, was pretty racist. But Kendrick Perkins and what he said, I'm not really going to talk about it. I just want to talk about the MVP race because it's a very interesting race. You're looking at 3 guys who all, in any given season, deserve to win the MVP award, right? All of these guys deserve to win the MVP award this season. They're all playing amazing. I mean, we'll start with Joel Embiid. He's leading the league in scoring, 33.3 points per game, 10.1 rebounds, 4.1 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 53% field goal percentage. He's second on player impact rating at 20.9, and then he has 117.9 offensive rating. Philadelphia's the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference at 43 and 22. He's an absolute stud on the defensive end, not just his offense. I mean, he may be the leading scorer in the NBA, but he's an absolute beast on that defensive side of the ball that the box score and the stats just won't show. He's an absolute stud on offense and on defense. He's one of the best, if not the best, two-way big man in the NBA. So he's definitely in that conversation. Giannis, 31.2 points per game, 11, almost 12 rebounds. Count it as 12, 11.9. 5.5 assists, 53% from the field. The Bucks are the 1 seed out east, 47 and 18. Arguably, in all of basketball, the first or second best team between them and Boston. Giannis, he's arguably the most dominant player since Shaquille O'Neal, right? When he gets into the paint, Giannis is going to score, and he's going to do it by any means necessary. And now on that defensive side of the ball, he's just as good as any other great defensive player in the sport. He's a candidate to win Defensive Player of the Year like every single season, as well as the MVP award. And then you're looking at Nikola Jokic, the back-to-back 2-time MVP from the past 2 seasons, putting up 24.3 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists. He's averaging a triple-double, shooting 63% from the field, and he's the most efficient player in the sport. 21.1 player impact rating, that's first in the game. 124.4 offensive rating, that's first in the NBA. 13.5 net rating, that's second. Denver's the 46 and 20, they're the 1 seed out west, and the Nuggets are 24 and 0 when Jokic posts a triple-double. So a lot of the conversation about Jokic has been that he's stat padding. Oh, he's just putting up triple-doubles, he's stat padding, he's not playing good, he's not a great player, he doesn't look to score because he's not top 10 in scoring right now. He's putting up 24.3 points per game when you have Giannis and Embiid putting 30 plus, and you can name, I think there's 15 guys ahead of Jokic in terms of scoring. So Jokic is prioritizing stat padding by passing and getting rebounds compared to his own personal scoring. Well, that's just wrong. Jokic is one of the best players. He's one of the best passers, best playmakers in the game. Just because he doesn't score doesn't mean he's not a great player. I mean, he obviously gets his own. He obviously scores, a lot. There's obviously moments where he can take over a game offensively, and he doesn't have to pass. But he likes to get his teammates involved. He has great supporting cast around him. Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon's one of the most underrated players in the league since getting traded from Orlando to Denver. So Jokic is making great plays. He's making the right play. I think any player in the NBA will tell you Jokic makes the right play every single time. Just because he's not scoring the ball and he's kicking it out or he's passing it down low or whatever he's doing, if it's not scoring, I think anyone in the league would tell you that he's making the right play in terms of the course of the game. So Jokic, he's not stat padding. He's the most efficient player in the game. He's great. He deserves to be in this conversation for MVP. And then also, real quick, people want to mention when Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double and won the MVP. I think that was 2017 or 2018. You cannot compare Nikola Jokic's current triple-double season to Russell Westbrook's triple-double season. First of all, the Nuggets and Jokic are way better than Russ and the Thunder. Jokic is the most efficient player in the sport, right? He's efficient at his shot making. When you look at Russ, he was not an efficient player. He's never been an efficient player. He's never been a great shooter from any spot, really, on the basketball court. The Thunder were the 6th seed that year that he won the MVP. They got bounced, I believe, in the first round against it was either the Rockets or the Spurs. And then Jokic, I mean, this guy is efficient. His team's the 1 seed in the Western Conference, arguably the favorite to make it out of the West to the finals. So the comparison between Russ, his MVP season, and Jokic this year is just completely invalid. They're not the same seasons at all. They're completely different players, and it's absolutely blasphemy to say that those two are having similar seasons. But for me this season, if I was to rank these 3 guys right now in terms of who would I give the MVP to, In third place, I have Giannis, right? He's playing great. Any other season, he's the MVP. I think he's still the best player in the world despite him not winning the MVP this season or the past 3 seasons. I still think he's the best player in the world. Number 2, I'm going to have Nikola Jokic. And we'll just, number 1's Embiid, and I'll explain why. I think Embiid is playing, I think it's because of his defense, right? Jokic doesn't play the level of defense that Joel Embiid does. Embiid plays absolutely the best defense from that center position, arguably in the NBA. And with his offense having the most points in the league and not really carrying, but taking this Sixers team to a team that I really think has a chance this season to make a finals run and win a championship, I think that's all the reason why you got to give Embiid this award. I mean, especially with his recent performances, he's out there putting up 40, 50 points a night on great shooting, on great defense. Jokic is still playing great. Obviously, he's won 2 MVPs in a row, and I'm not trying to say that he doesn't deserve a third. I just think Embiid this season is playing incredible on both sides of the ball, and that's why I'm giving him the MVP award this season. But we'll see who ends up getting it. I think they announced it in June. So whoever gets the award, I mean, really deserves it. It's not like any of these guys. I mean, if Donovan Mitchell wins the MVP, then these 3 guys have obviously been snubbed. But that's not going to happen. It's going to be one of these 3 guys that wins the MVP award this season. Any of these 3 deserve it. I'm giving it to Embiid so far. We'll see, obviously, at the end of the regular season, because this is a regular season award, not a postseason award, so we can't judge the team's playoff success when it comes to the voting of these players for MVP. But that's actually going to do it for this episode of the franchise AL East preview, and then the MVP talk. Like I said, I think Embiid is going to win the award. He's my favorite, my pick to win the NBA MVP this season. So we'll be back on Monday. Start of free agency is on Monday. I bet a lot of NFL news, MLB, NBA. All that's going to take place this weekend over these next 2 days. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, that's where you can find the franchise. Like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll be back on Monday with another episode, and I will see you guys later.